right, so I had a couple questions on how I'm doing my chinking. Not really able to show how I'm doing all the stucco lath because I've already got all that in, but I'll kind of show you how it looks close up. I was able to cut pretty accurately by using an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel and just used a piece of this stuff here, a little extra piece of subfloor as a guide, and just ran the guard for the angle grinder along the edge of the subfloor. Then once I had a piece that was roughly the right size, I just take my, this is actually a 20 volt Porter cable narrow crown stapler. Pound that in there. Got another one I actually like better that was a cheap pneumatic one from Home Depot, but I don't want to get my compressor out right now. This one's a little bulky. Yeah, you just kind of stick your nose of your narrow crown stapler on the spot that you want to nail. And just pound that right in there. It ends up actually being pretty tight. You can see there's not a lot of give to this stucco lath once I get it nailed in there. There's a spot that could be a little tighter. Top and bottom, and now that's not budging at all. So this is nice because when you actually go in and do the chinking, there's not as much of a gap, there's not as much movement. So you get a nice smooth chink line. So you can see I've kind of tried to stop my chink lines either where a 2x4 wall is located, or in this case where there's a junction box that I can, or an electrical box that I can put my my cover over. So anyway, I'm gonna go mix up some chinking, and then I'll show you kind of what the mixture looks like when I'm done with that. All right, now here's a bucket of chinking mix that I'm working on. This is probably about right. Usually what I'll do is I'll mix it up for 4 or 5 minutes and let it sit, and then just hit it one more time to make sure it's all nice and smooth. As you can see, it's thick enough that it sticks to the side of the bucket pretty good at this point. This might be slightly dry. I may add a little bit more water to it here or there, but this is roughly the consistency you're gonna want. You can see when I flatten it with the trowel, it smooths down pretty nice there. So it's definitely not too dry. It might be adding a little bit of water just as I go through the bucket as it dries out a little bit more, but it's kind of this chocolate chip cookie dough consistency, sort of. And that seems to have been working out the best. If it's too smooth, then it wants to crack when you install it. A little bit about the machine that I'm using to mix this up. It's a rigid stand mortar mixer, and I got this thing on clearance. It's been a nice tool for the job. It's basically just a giant KitchenAid mixer, more or less. It's designed to work right with the 5-gallon bucket. The machine has all these presets. It's got this cute little LED display. I'm not sure if you can read that or not, but it's got these presets for things like thin set. It's got a 2-speed gearbox. It's leaking oil. I'm probably gonna have to send it in to get it serviced. But the idea is that you can use the stand one of 2 ways. The stand can either be locked in place, kind of like it is now, only down where the beaters are in the bucket. And then there's this lid that goes on top of a standard 5-gallon bucket. It has a wire that connects to the mixer for reasons, but with what we're doing with chinking, I think this is actually going to be too thick a mixture. I tried it once, it didn't really work out. For it to be thin enough for the automatic kind of lock the stand in place and let it go mode, I think you need to have something like thin set would be fine, or a thinner mortar, but the thick chinking that we need is not really working for that. So what I do then, let me knock this down a little bit. So you just basically take your mixer, release the setting there, and then you just go ahead and launch this guy. You can see I can move it up and down, back and forth. But the stand does a lot of the work. I'm doing this one-handed, which you couldn't do with like a whole hog. Anyway, I'm gonna mix that up for a couple more minutes, and then I'm gonna go start doing the last couple of lines here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and see what it looks like to squish this stuff into an actual chinking gap here. I've got a couple of tools that I use for this. One's a little 2-inch trowel, and then once I've got the actual material in there, I smooth it down typically with the larger 3-inch trowel just to have a a little less obvious trowel mark on the chink line, but we'll go ahead and scoop some of this stuff up. You can see it's pretty thick. It almost looks like it's too dry to go in there, but it actually works really great like this. So just kind of squash that on there. See the first layer. You can still see just a little bit of the pattern from the stucco lath, but there's not really much thickness there. So we'll put a little more down. And then when you do that second layer, the pattern from the stucco lath just kind of disappears. So I try to get it more or less here, all the way down there, and then I'll come back with the 3" and smooth it out a little better. But I like having gloves on and I like doing it two-handed, so I'm gonna shut the video off and just kind of show the finished product here in a couple minutes. All right, so here we got our nice fresh line of chinking. Looks pretty smooth. Don't see much in the way of trowel marks or anything like that. You can see there's a little texture to it. And then of course it'll lighten up once it dries. So that's the stuff that I put up a few days ago compared to the stuff that I just put up here. This batch I'd say was probably about right, maybe a little on the damp side. It could have been slightly drier. The only difference I've seen in the different sizes of batches is, let me see if I can find some that has this. Okay, here's one. So you can see like this line right here, it's just a real fine hairline crack every so often. That's what I've seen when it's a little wetter mixture, where I think there's one over here that looks good. This guy right here is nice and dry. Go all the way down this 10, 15 foot long section of chinking, and I don't see any cracks at all. So I try to err on the side of being a little drier. It makes it a little harder to push the material in, but it ends up not having the little cracks. I may end up trying to fill those in with some thinned out chinking or something like that, or I may do nothing at all. Just leave it like that. But yeah, that only took a few minutes there. It comes out nice and smooth. For those that aren't part of the LHBA are probably asking, well, why are you using the cement rather than just the synthetic chinking by somebody like Permachink or Sashco? And there's a couple reasons. One is, this is a really rustic style log home where you can see there's these really big logs with the cracks, and the selling point on something like Sashco's log jam is it's textured like natural chinking, and well, so is natural chinking, so why not just use the natural chinking? And then the other side is cost. I mean, I probably for the materials that I bought for the entire house, the amount of mortar material that I needed, I maybe could have bought 3 buckets of log jam. So it's much cheaper, and with my logs being very seasoned, they're not going to shrink much. I don't really need the flexibility of the synthetic chinking like a log home that was built from freshly cut logs would. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going with. We'll see how it holds up over time, but I'm pretty happy with the way it's going down for now.